My roommate was sleepwalking the other night. When she woke up, we asked her what she dreamed about. She said she dreamed she wanted to cut a watermelon, but it wasn't ripe. We all cracked up. But then, the next night, I woke up with a start. I saw my sleepwalking roommate holding a knife in one hand and feeling my head with the other, muttering, "This one's ripe." A shiver shot down my spine. I screamed. That yell instantly woke up the other two girls in our dorm room. Jenny, on the top bunk, flicked on her little desk lamp, lighting up the scene in front of me. There was Tina, standing right in front of me. Her eyes were open, but her gaze was vacant. One hand was still feeling my head, while the other held a kitchen knife high in the air. Holy crap! Ruby, on the bottom bunk across from me, snapped to attention. Being an athlete, she had quick reflexes. She lunged over and grabbed Tina from behind, holding her tight. I came to my senses too, grabbed the leftover water from my nightstand, and splashed it right in Tina's face without a second thought. Tina jolted, her dazed eyes finally focusing. She saw the knife in her hand and jumped, dropping it with a clatter. What's going on? My face was grim. That's what I want to know. Do you have any idea what you were doing? Tina's face was ghostly white. She stammered. I just had a dream. I dreamed I was in a watermelon patch again, picking one out. This time, I finally found a ripe one, so I wanted to cut it open. All of our faces turned pale. Tina had a history of sleepwalking. When we first found out at the beginning of the semester, we were all a bit scared. But then we realized her sleepwalking usually just involved her standing by the window, spacing out. Plus, we all got along great during the day, so we didn't worry too much about it. Once we got closer, we'd even joke about her sleepwalking, asking her what she'd dreamed about this time. Lately, whenever we asked, she'd say she dreamed she was back at her grandpa's watermelon patch from when she was a kid. She said she wanted to pick a big, sweet watermelon to cut open and eat, but none of them were ever ripe. We'd all laughed our heads off when she told us that. But now, none of us were laughing. Because thinking about Tina feeling my head earlier, it was pretty obvious, the ripe watermelon she was talking about was my head. I looked down at the big kitchen knife on the floor. It was the one Ruby usually used to cut fruit in the dorm. Big and sharp. If I hadn't woken up in time, Tina might have actually split my head in two like a watermelon. The thought sent a cold sweat down my back. I shot up. I'm going to the RA. I need to change rooms. The RA was pretty annoyed we woke her up in the middle of the night, but after hearing our story, her hair stood on end too. Tina, I'm going to contact your counselor. They'll need to talk to your parents about maybe seeing a doctor or something. Until then, you can stay in the empty dorm room upstairs. Tina was pretty freaked out herself. Her eyes were red as she went to pack her things. She moved out quickly and even sent a picture of her new room to our group chat. In the photo, she'd barricaded the door shut with a pile of stuff. She also wrote, "I've locked the door tight and blocked it with a bunch of things. I also got rid of anything sharp. Don't worry, I won't hurt anyone." Seeing her message, we all felt a little bad. Jenny couldn't help but say, "Were we too harsh?" But Ruby shot back, "Too harsh? Wait till she actually cuts your head open, then see if you think it's too harsh." Don't let Ruby's cute name fool you. She had a fiery temper. Her one sentence wiped out any guilt I was feeling. The four of us in the dorm weren't in the same major anyway. After Tina moved out, we didn't really run into each other, and we hadn't seen her for a few days. Then, 3 days later, before dawn, a blood-curdling scream suddenly echoed through the dorm building. We all woke up with a jolt. "Who's screaming their head off this early?" Ruby grumbled, climbing out of bed, clearly cranky from lack of sleep. Jenny, rubbing her sleepy eyes, got up and fumbled for her phone, muttering, "It's not even 6, what in the, aya?" She startled me again. What's wrong? Jenny practically collapsed as she climbed down from the top bunk. I just saw in our business school group chat, someone said there was a death in our dorm building. What? Ruby and I exchanged horrified looks. Ruby immediately asked, which room? How did they die? Jenny, trembling, glanced at her phone again. Suddenly, her face went even whiter. It's on the floor above us. She looked up, her voice shaking. Her head was split right in half. They said it was like cutting a watermelon. The whole room fell into a dead silence. Because we all thought of Tina. After a long pause, I spoke, my voice trembling. It couldn't be Tina, right? Didn't she say she locked her door and barricaded it with stuff? Ruby said coldly, yeah, but I've seen movies where sleepwalkers can open doors, even go ride a bike. The room fell silent again. Finally, Jenny, her face pale, said, okay, let's not scare ourselves. Figuring out the killer is the police's job. We shouldn't dwell on it. Ruby and I nodded silently. We all got up to wash, dropping the subject. All day, everyone on campus was talking about the murder in our dorm building. The victim was a freshman girl from the English department. Rumor had it her head was split in half, and her roommates freaked out when they woke up and saw her. There were a ton of cop cars parked outside the girls' dorms, and the room where it happened was sealed off. The rumors got wilder and wilder. First, it was just split in half, then people started saying her brain was missing. Everyone was on edge. That evening, Jenny, Ruby, and I were eating in the cafeteria when, unexpectedly, clank! A tray suddenly landed on our table. I looked up and saw Tina's bright smile. Jenny, Ruby, Amanda. Long time no see. The three of us froze. But Tina didn't seem to notice anything was off. She started eating heartily, chatting away. My foreign languages classes are so far from you guys. After I moved out, I haven't seen you at all. How have you been? Tina chattered on cheerfully, but none of us responded. Finally, I couldn't hold back anymore and interrupted, Tina, have you dreamed about cutting watermelons lately? Tina paused. No, why? Actually, these past few nights, I've been dreaming about eating sausages. What's up? Why are you asking? I suddenly didn't know how to answer. Just then, we overheard people at the next table talking. Hey, did you hear about that murder in the girls' dorm? They say the killer was super strong, cut her head clean in half. Just like a watermelon. Tina heard them too. It finally clicked. She looked at us, her face turning pale. You think I killed that girl from the English department? None of us said anything. Tina burst into tears. Is that what you think of me? I told you. I don't have any sharp objects in my room, I lock my door tight every night, and I check it in the morning. Why don't you believe me? Jenny felt bad. Tina, that's not what we meant. But Tina didn't want to hear it. She got up and ran off, crying. The three of us lost our appetites. As soon as we got back to our room, a girl from next door came over, speaking to us conspiratorially. Did you hear? There's a break in the murder case upstairs. The police checked all the hallway security footage for our dorm, and they didn't see anyone go in or out of the victim's room. So now, the victim's 3 roommates are the prime suspects. They've been taken to the police station for questioning. The 3 of us were stunned to hear that. If no one went in or out, the killer was probably one of her roommates. This probably had nothing to do with Tina after all. Jenny looked guilty. Shouldn't we apologize to Tina? I mean, being accused of murder, I'd be furious too. Apologize for what? Ruby answered gruffly. We never said it was her. We just asked what she dreamed about. She's the one who's so sensitive. Apologizing would just make it more awkward. Ruby had a point. So we dropped it, just got ready for bed, and lay down. I drifted off, not sure how long I'd been asleep, when suddenly, knock, knock, knock. I was jolted awake by a knocking sound. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and looked. 2 in the morning. A cold sweat broke out on my skin. Who would be knocking on our dorm room door in the middle of the night? At the same time, Jenny on the top bunk had turned on her nightlight. I saw Ruby across from me was up too. Jenny's trembling voice came from the dimness. Who is it? The next second, we heard a familiar voice from outside the door. It's me, Tina. In the dim light, I saw Ruby's face turn pale. I knew we were all thinking the same thing. Was the Tina outside the door sleepwalking, or was she awake? I instinctively pulled my blanket tighter and blurted out, "What do you want?" There was a moment of silence from outside, then I heard a light chuckle from the other side of the door. I just cut up a big, ripe watermelon. Want some? Dead silence. The entire room was plunged into dead silence. In the dim light, I saw the last bit of color drain from Ruby's face. Jenny scrambled down from the top bunk and threw herself into my arms, trembling uncontrollably. I forced myself to stay calm with what little rationality I had left. Don't be scared. The police already found out, right? The murder had nothing to do with Tina. She must just be sleepwalking. I wasn't sure if I was trying to comfort Jenny or myself. Besides, we locked the door. But no sooner had the words left my mouth than Jenny suddenly shuddered violently. I looked down at her. What's wrong? Jenny's face was completely drained of color, her voice tinged with tears. I remember now. I was the last one to bed tonight. I forgot to lock the door. My hands and feet instantly turned ice cold. At the same time, I heard Tina's cheerful voice from outside. Oh, you guys didn't lock the door? Well, I'm coming in then. Click. The door slowly creaked open from the outside. Jenny couldn't take it anymore and threw herself into my arms. Ruby shot up, about to grab Tina, but the next second, she froze. Just then, by the light of the nightlight, I got a clear look at Tina as she came in. She was holding half a cut watermelon, her eyes were clear, and she was smiling at us. My frayed nerves instantly relaxed. Ruby snapped out of it and smacked Tina playfully. Tina! You're messing with us. Ouch! Tina rubbed her arm, wincing, but still smiling. Well, you guys misunderstood me earlier today, so I had to scare you a little as punishment. Besides, I wasn't lying. I really did bring watermelon for you. The tension in the room immediately eased. Jenny calmed down too and went over to take Tina's hand. Tina, we're so sorry about earlier. We didn't really misunderstand you, it's just. I know, Tina interrupted with a smile. It's just that when I sleepwalk, I can't control myself, so you were worried I might do something awful. But don't worry, I've taken a lot of precautions. My parents said they're taking me to see a doctor next week. I won't hurt anyone. Okay, enough about that. Let's eat some watermelon. With that, Tina put the watermelon down, looking a bit exasperated. You have no idea how much effort this took. I didn't dare keep a knife in my room, so I had to split it with my bare hands. I got juice all over myself. We looked down at the watermelon. It was indeed unevenly broken, and Tina was covered in watermelon juice. We all burst out laughing. We didn't bother cutting it further, just grabbed spoons and dug in, sharing it. After finishing the watermelon, Tina went back to her room to sleep. We all went to bed too. The next morning, after all the drama the night before, the three of us were exhausted. But we were in pretty good spirits. It's still early, Jenny suggested. Should we go get Tina and have breakfast together? I was about to agree, but Ruby suddenly spoke up. Hold on, there was actually something I didn't get to tell you guys last night. Ruby looked like she was about to say something important, but just then, a commotion erupted outside our room. We opened the door and saw a girl from the next room running over. What happened? The girl's face was pale, and she spoke with a tremor. Someone died. Someone else died in the dorms. This time, the death was in the boys' dorm. The victim was a junior in computer science. When his roommates woke up in the morning, they smelled blood in the room. They searched for the source of the smell and finally pulled open the curtains. That's when they saw the guy on the bed, disemboweled. I heard. The girl from next door swallowed hard, her voice shaking as she continued. Not only was his stomach cut open, but his intestines, they were gone. The three of us turned pale too. With 2 deaths in a row, the school had to take it seriously. Soon, the area under the boys' dorm was also full of police cars. In this internet age, news spread like wildfire. Someone online quickly dug up that the first victim, the girl from the English department, and this computer science guy were actually a couple. A couple dying one after the other, it looked like the work of the same person. But frustratingly, the security cameras in both dorms hadn't caught anything, leaving everyone clueless. Back in our room, Ruby and Jenny were unusually quiet. Finally, Jenny broke the silence. I actually knew the guy who died this time. I was taken aback. I looked up and saw her face was slightly pale. He was the guy Tina liked. Now Ruby and I were completely stunned. In our dorm, Jenny was the sweetest. Everyone felt close to her because she was introverted and tight-lipped, so we were more likely to confide in her. What a coincidence, I couldn't help saying. Will Tina be heartbroken? Should we go check on her? As I said that, I reached for my phone to call Tina, but Ruby stopped me. Don't call her just yet. Ruby's face was a bit pale too. There's something else I haven't told you. Do you remember Tina's clothes were a bit red yesterday? I paused. Yeah, I remember. Didn't she say it was watermelon juice? No way, Ruby blurted out. She was standing under the lamp later, and I got a good look. It was such a deep red. How could that be watermelon juice? I had a strange, bad feeling. Ruby, what are you trying to say? Ruby's face was pale. I didn't want to bring this up, but hearing about how that guy died today, if I remember correctly, when he died, his intestines were missing, right? I frowned. So? What does that have to do with Tina? Ruby swallowed hard. Do you remember when we asked Tina in the cafeteria if she'd been dreaming about cutting watermelons lately? What did she say? I remember she said back then that she hadn't been dreaming about cutting watermelons. Instead, she'd been dreaming about eating sausages. The room fell silent once more. Finally, I couldn't help but laugh, breaking the silence. My laugh was sharp, sounding jarringly out of place in the quiet. Ruby, are you crazy? As I spoke, I found it utterly ridiculous. Are you saying Tina killed that guy whose intestines were missing last night? But wasn't he the guy Tina liked? Why would she do that? Just then, Jenny chimed in, well, Tina liked him, but he didn't like her back. Tina confessed to him before, and he rejected her. I stared at Jenny, even more shocked. So, Jenny, you're saying Tina killed him out of spurned love? And even ate? I couldn't bring myself to say the last few words. I frowned. Do you hear yourselves? This is insane. Jenny, Ruby watches too many horror movies, her mind is full of crazy stuff, that's one thing, but are you going to spout nonsense with her too? I had expected Jenny to join me in rebuking Ruby's outlandish idea. After all, Jenny had always been the closest to Tina. But to my surprise, Jenny swallowed lightly and said in a low voice, Amanda, actually, now that Ruby mentions it, I remember, last night, I did see something red in the gaps between Tina's teeth. I thought it was watermelon pulp at the time, but thinking back, the color was way too red. I looked at Jenny, even more astounded. It wasn't just Ruby who thought this, Jenny did too. Don't tell me, I said, a sudden thought striking me, you think Tina also killed that English department girl from our dorm building before? You think because she couldn't get the guy she liked, she killed the couple? The room was dead quiet. No one spoke. But it was obvious. Jenny and Ruby's silence meant they did indeed think what I'd just said. I was so exasperated I almost laughed again, but this time with anger. Fine. If that's what you think, let's stop wasting time. Let's just call the police. I took out my phone, my expression blank. We'll tell the police everything we know and let them see if it's even possible. As I said this, I actually started to dial, but I never expected that at this very moment. Clatter. Something suddenly fell to the floor behind me. I turned around, and my face instantly changed. Tina? As we were talking, we hadn't closed the dorm room door properly, it was just ajar. And now, through the crack of the ajar door, I saw Tina standing there. I don't know when she'd arrived. She was holding some snacks she'd bought off campus. Those were the snacks that had just fallen to the floor. They were all scattered on the ground now, some soupy liquid spilling everywhere, but she paid them no mind. Tina. Jenny shot up, her face pale. You heard all that? Tina's ashen face answered our question. You still suspect me? Tina's voice trembled. I told you, I've been so careful. It really couldn't have been me. Why do you still not believe me? It's not that we don't believe you, Jenny said, a hint of fear in her voice. It's just, you know yourself that when you sleepwalk, you don't know what you're doing. How can you swear you didn't do anything? Yeah, Ruby added gruffly. And it's all too much of a coincidence. When you were dreaming about cutting watermelons, a girl died with her head split open. Now you're dreaming about eating sausages, and a guy dies with his intestines missing. How can there be so many coincidences in the world? You guys. Tina finally burst into tears. Fine, you don't believe me? I'll show you proof right now. With that, she strode over. The moment Tina walked towards us, even I instinctively took a fearful step back. Let alone Jenny, who shrieked and hid behind Ruby. But Tina didn't pull out a weapon. Instead, she took out her phone and shoved it right in our faces. See this? I installed a security camera in my room a while ago. I didn't do anything. Seeing the screen on her phone, we were stunned. It was a security camera video playing on the screen. Ruby calmed down a bit and took the phone. Tina, her voice choked with tears, said, I know I don't remember anything when I sleepwalk, and I think it's terrifying too. So after I almost cut Amanda's head, I immediately bought a camera and put it in my new room. This camera is always pointed at my door. You can clearly see, I haven't gone out at all these past few nights. Indeed, Tina's camera was angled to capture her entire new dorm room door. Basically, if Tina got up and left her room, it would definitely be recorded. Ruby scrolled through the footage, going through pretty much the entire previous night. And sure enough, Tina's figure wasn't seen. Tina continued, sobbing, the guy died last night. This footage is from last night. Now you have to believe me, right? Jenny finally snapped out of it and looked at Tina with guilt. Tina, I'm sorry. It's our fault for doubting you again, she took Tina's hand. We didn't want to suspect you, it's just. Wait. Jenny was struggling for words when I suddenly cut her off. My face was ashen. I stared at the screen, trembling too much to speak. Ruby was startled by my reaction. She looked at me. Amanda, what are you doing? What's gotten into you? But I just kept staring at the video, my face growing paler. After several seconds, I managed to force out the words, my voice shaking. You guys, look at the mirror in the recording. In the video, by the door, there was a pile of stuff, clearly arranged by Tina to prevent herself from going out that way at night. Among those things was a table, and on the table was a makeup mirror. And right now, my attention was fixed on that makeup mirror. I snatched the phone from Ruby and zoomed in on the reflection in the makeup mirror. And then I saw it clearly, the makeup mirror reflected the dorm room window. And in the mirror's reflection, Tina was climbing out the window. Everyone saw it. Now, it wasn't just me. Ruby and Jenny's faces turned white too. Even Tina's own face went pale. Yes, Tina hadn't taken a single step out her door. But she had gone out through the window. Wait. I heard Jenny say, her voice trembling. I remember now. The police said nothing was caught on camera at the doors of either victim's room. But if the killer didn't go in through the main door, but climbed in through the window. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because I suddenly remembered. The first girl who died, her room was right below Tina's new room. And coincidentally, the second victim, the guy, his room was on the second floor. Not too high up, climbable. Meanwhile, Jenny, unable to stop herself, scrolled Tina's camera footage back to the night the English department girl died. Sure enough, that night, the camera had also captured the reflection of Tina climbing out the window. And Ruby, suddenly remembering something, said with a tremor. Tina, I remember, you really like rock climbing, don't you? Tina had always been a rock climbing enthusiast, a member of the school's climbing club. When we'd gone out before, no matter how difficult the climb, she handled it with ease. Not only that, but outside our dorm rooms, there were lots of external AC units and some ledges, which would indeed make climbing easier. It wasn't just me who realized all this, the others, including Tina herself, did too. The already cool white light of the dorm room fell on her face, making her look even paler. I saw her stagger backward. No. Impossible. She kept saying to herself. I couldn't have killed anyone, absolutely impossible, and I definitely couldn't have eaten. Tina's words sounded like she was trying to convince herself, but it was clear she didn't believe them. Because she wouldn't remember anything she did while sleepwalking. She couldn't even finish the sentence after eaten. She gagged, turned, and ran off. Tina. Jenny instinctively called out, seeming to want to chase after her, but fear ultimately kept her rooted to the spot. After Tina left, I immediately took out my phone. Ruby snapped back to reality and grabbed my wrist. Amanda, what are you doing? What do you think I'm doing? My face was pale. Calling the police, of course. Now that we have such an important clue, we obviously need to tell them. I was about to call, but Ruby was still holding me back. Wait. Ruby looked at me, her voice trembling. If we report this, Tina will be completely identified as the culprit. She's our friend, after all. Why don't we give her some time to turn herself in? I frowned. But. No buts. Ruby was surprisingly firm this time. Even if she is the culprit, she didn't do it willingly. Let her turn herself in. We were roommates, for crying out loud. Ruby spent a lot of effort and finally convinced me. I didn't call the police, for now. But for the next 2 days, we didn't see Tina. We wanted to persuade her to turn herself in, but we didn't get the chance. Later, we heard from some girls in the foreign languages department that Tina had called in sick for 2 days and had been holed up in her dorm room, not coming out. The second night, I finally couldn't take it anymore. I don't think we can wait any longer, I said. We have to call the police right now. What if Tina accidentally hurt someone else while sleepwalking these next couple of days? Can you take responsibility for that? But Ruby retorted, Tina knows she climbed out the window. She'll definitely take some precautions. She wouldn't just let herself commit another crime, would she? How do you know? What if? Bang, bang, bang. Before we could finish arguing, a knocking sound suddenly interrupted us. Our whole dorm room fell silent. I quickly glanced at my phone on the nightstand. We'd been arguing for so long that it was already midnight. Jenny, on the top bunk, was already scared, her voice trembling. Is that someone knocking? See, could it be Tina? We were obviously all worried about a repeat of last time. Or, even more terrifying, that the Tina knocking this time wouldn't be the awake one, but the scary, sleepwalking Tina. Don't be too scared, Ruby, across from me, said immediately. I made sure the door is locked tight, so. Bang, bang, bang. Ruby hadn't even finished her sentence when the knocking sound came again. I quickly realized something was wrong. It wasn't just me. Jenny on the top bunk realized it too. I heard her say, her voice trembling, is it just me? Or does that knocking sound like it's not coming from the door, but from the window? I felt like I'd been plunged into an ice cellar. My hands and feet were freezing. That was it. If our previous suspicions were correct, whenever Tina committed her crimes while sleepwalking, she didn't go through the door. Instead, she climbed the outer walls of the dorm and got into other rooms through the windows. Thinking of this, I mechanically turned my head. Our curtains were drawn, but the moonlight filtering in cast a shadow on the window. The shadow of someone clinging to the outside of the window. I finally couldn't hold it in anymore and screamed. Jenny on the top bunk had clearly seen the shadow too. She shrieked, scrambled down, and grabbed onto me. With my last shred of sanity, I grabbed her and bolted for the door. But Ruby, on the other side, was just sitting on her bed for some reason. I thought she was scared stiff, so I smacked her shoulder hard. What are you just sitting there for? Let's go. With that, I tried to open the door to get out, but the moment I pulled, I froze. The door wouldn't open. I pulled hard several times, but it was stuck. It definitely wasn't locked. I looked down and realized what was wrong. The crack of the door was stuffed with a ton of paper, not just at the bottom, but all along the side seams too. It was packed tight. Don't underestimate a few pieces of paper. With that much jammed in, the friction was immense. I couldn't budge the door. I pulled with all my might a few more times, but it was no use. I had to look at Ruby. Ruby, give me a hand. Remember, Ruby was an athlete, the strongest among us. She finally turned and gave it a hard pull. Bang! After a few yanks, the door finally burst open. We were about to dash out. But suddenly, I sensed something was off and glanced back. I froze. The shadow outside the window? While we were struggling with the door, the shadow outside the window had disappeared. Before I could react, Jenny beside me suddenly screamed. I whipped my head around and the sight that met my eyes almost made me faint. The person we thought was Tina, the shadow at the window, had somehow appeared at the entrance to our hallway. Her eyes were glazed over, and she was holding a bloody knife, giving us an eerie smile. Hello. Want some braised pork ribs? Jenny beside me saw Tina too and let out a scream, backing away continuously. Ruby and I were also scared, stumbling backward. And Tina walked right into our room. Slam. The dorm room door slammed shut again. Tina stood at the doorway, trapping the three of us inside. Tina, calm down. I shouted, trying to snap her out of it. Don't do anything crazy. But this Tina was clearly sleepwalking, her eyes glazed over. She didn't hear me at all. She just raised the knife in her hand, muttering to herself. Cut the ribs, I need to cut the ribs. Saying this, she actually came closer, swinging the knife. Jenny snapped back to her senses and yelled out the window, help. Somebody help us. Hell, Ah. But before she could finish, Tina walked up without hesitation and plunged the knife deep into her chest. Jenny's eyes widened as she fell. Blood splattered onto Tina's face. But Tina just stared blankly and said, these ribs won't cut. I can only stab them. How strange. Seeing Jenny fall, my face turned completely white. Ruby, quick, help me hold her down. I desperately pulled at Ruby beside me, wanting to team up and subdue Tina. But for some reason, Ruby just stared blankly at Tina, muttering, how is this possible? Could it be? No, it can't be. Seeing her like that, I gave up on her help and turned to dodge Tina's attack myself. But the sleepwalking Tina was incredibly agile. She grabbed me and, without a word, stabbed me in the stomach too. Blood spurted out. I slowly collapsed. Only Tina and Ruby were left in the room. Tina slowly walked towards Ruby. Ruby, at that moment, seemed to wake from a dream, snapping to alertness. Stop! She yelled. I said stop. Tina! Snap out of it. As she spoke, she grabbed some nearby water and splashed it hard onto Tina's face. But this time, Tina still didn't wake up. She continued to hold the knife, steadily approaching Ruby, muttering, last rib. Just as she was about to raise the knife, Ruby suddenly pulled something from her pocket and shouted, look here. Look at this. What Ruby pulled out was a silver pendant. At the bottom of the pendant was a large, round pocket watch, just like the ones you often see hypnotists use on TV. Ruby seemed to be using all her strength to stay calm. She swung the pendant back and forth, saying, now, listen to me. Put the knife down immediately. Put the knife down, okay? Tina's steps halted, but she still didn't put down the knife. Ruby got angry. I told you to put the knife down. Didn't you hear me? Why aren't you following my command? Suddenly, my voice echoed abruptly in the room. Of course she won't listen to your command. Because she's not actually sleepwalking right now. Ruby's body jolted. She turned her head and saw a shocking scene. Jenny and I, who should have been stabbed to death, slowly stood up. We were covered in blood, but our faces were perfectly calm. Ruby suddenly realized something. This blood. I wiped some of the blood off myself. It's all just paint. I took the knife from Tina's hand. This knife is fake too. I poked the blade, it retracted. Ruby understood now. She looked at Tina beside her, her voice even angrier. And you weren't even sleepwalking. At this, Tina's eyes cleared up too. She looked at Ruby, her lips pale, and muttered, was it really you, Ruby? Were you controlling all of this? Ruby finally got it. She looked sharply at me and said coldly, Jenny and Tina aren't smart enough for this. Amanda, you figured it out, didn't you? I nodded calmly. Ruby's fists clenched. When did you realize something was wrong? I said, from when you wouldn't let me call the police. That's right. Ever since Ruby strongly opposed me calling the police a couple of days ago, I knew something was off. Ruby and Tina weren't that close. And Ruby, who always hated evil, would never have deliberately stopped me from calling the police, especially not so forcefully. So, I pretended to agree at the time, but I secretly started investigating. I explained. Actually, a lot of things seemed off if you thought about them carefully. It's true that some people can perform extraordinary physical feats while sleepwalking, but I'd observed Tina's sleepwalking. She just wasn't capable of complex actions like climbing out windows and committing murder. So I was suspicious from the start. Then I looked into some books about sleepwalking. I found out that under the guidance of a qualified hypnotist, sleepwalking can be controlled to some extent, but this control is very limited. It's highly unlikely you could make someone commit something as complex as murder. So I suspected someone was deliberately trying to frame Tina for murders they committed. And you were the most likely person. After all, you had the easiest access to Tina, and looking back, you were the one constantly leading us to misunderstand her. I looked at Ruby, my voice tinged with coldness. I also did some digging, Ruby. You were pretty close to the girl who died, weren't you? Actually, we always knew Ruby wasn't into guys, but a lot of that was her private business, so we never meddled. But with things as they were, I investigated, and I found out that Ruby and that girl had been in the same online group and had gone out together many times. But that relationship didn't last long. The girl then got together with the guy from computer science. So, it turned out 2 people in our dorm had connections to the deceased couple. Tina liked the guy, but she had actually given up on him a long time ago. But Ruby liked the girl, and it seemed she hadn't given up. Therefore, a crime of passion, killing out of spurned love, wasn't just a possibility for Tina, it was also possible for Ruby. But I wasn't sure about any of this initially. I continued, that's why Jenny and I found Tina and staged this whole act tonight. Tina never actually climbed out the window. I just asked someone in the room above us to help me by hanging a human-shaped dummy, put some rocks in it, and shook it to make the knocking sounds. Then we had Tina pretend to kill us to lead you, Ruby, into revealing the truth. I looked at the hypnotic pendant in Ruby's hand and said, "Now, I've confirmed it." Ruby's pale lips twisted into a smirk. "That's right. It's exactly as you said." She began to speak slowly. "Actually, my mom is a hypnotist. I learned hypnotism when I was very young. I can control people's dreams or make them do unconscious things while sleepwalking. After I discovered Tina's sleepwalking abilities, I secretly tried it a few times. I found I could indeed control the content of her dreams and some simple sleepwalking behaviors. So later, after Kim betrayed me, I wanted to kill Kim and that bastard. My first thought was to have Tina carry out my revenge. Kim was the name of the girl who died." Ruby sneered. "Unfortunately, just as you said, even though Tina was sleepwalking, she couldn't perform an act as difficult as murder. So I had to settle for the next best thing. I killed them myself but made her think she did it. I climbed out the window at night, killed Kim, and then climbed into the boys' dorm and killed that damn bastard. Each time, I would hypnotize Tina to climb out her window, stay there for a while, and then climb back in. That way, if the video caught even a part of it, it could serve as evidence. My original plan was to have Tina turn herself in, or for her to feel so guilty she'd kill herself. But I never expected you to see through it all." I looked at Tina beside Ruby, who was now breaking down, crying out, "Why would you use me like this?" Hearing this, Ruby yelled back, agitated, "I had no choice. Kim betrayed me. I had to make her pay." "If you wanted to make her pay, you should have taken responsibility yourself," I said coldly. "What kind of person uses others?" Ruby's face turned deathly pale. She was speechless. In the end, we called the police. They arrested Ruby, and this whole farce finally came to an end.